You know, feel all cold as it's a real bad draft.
You turn around, there's no one there.
I felt something watching me.
He is icy cold.
You feel the hackles on the back of your neck rise up and, you know, just your hair stands on end.
But there's this quick waft of like a lavender perfume.
He then just turned and vanished.
The door will just open right up like that.
Every person in the group who had line of sight to the door actually saw the ghost.
They were in here a couple of minutes and they said someone just approached them in the room and told them to get out. Ivy didn't want you to sit on her couch.
Hobart is an old town with a colourful history. Hundreds died in the foul conditions of the penal colonies, and things weren't so much better for the free men and women in those tumultuous times. Rapes and robberies, hangings and tragedy marked Hobart's early years. Echoes of those times still linger in the reports of Hobart's numerous ghosts and hauntings. From Fred, the well-known ghost of the Theatre Royal, and Ivy of the Hobart Penitentiary, to the Reverend George Eastman of Port Arthur, Hobart has been haunted for well over 100 years. Fact or fiction? You decide.
The first time I ever saw a ghost in Port Arthur was the Reverend George Eastman, and I was standing in this room at about sort of 3 in the afternoon, nice and bright, wasn't dark and spooky, and I'm thinking, you know, script in hand, Reverend George Eastman, big man, died above us in his bedroom, which is just above our heads up here, and at that stage I felt something watching me. I turned, just unconsciously turned, and through the doorway you can see just over there, on the other side in the second room, there stood the ghostly figure of the Reverend George, a very large man in a brown suit with a heavy beard. He sort of looked at me and frowned. And I, of course, was a bit kind of shocked because I could see straight through him. He was a ghostly apparition. And then he began to walk towards me, quite slowly and, you know, sort of deliberately. And I don't think he was really threatening or anything. It was like he wanted to talk to me. He wasn't very happy with me. It was just the look in his face. But as he walked through the doorway into the entranceway, he just vanished and was gone.
So we'd finished our shift for the night. You've got to imagine the stage is dark at this point, and I remember once I'd got next door to the pub that I hadn't turned something off, so I come back inside, left everything dark, had a torch on me, and come around in the dark over to here, got halfway up this ladder and felt the hackles rise on the back of my neck and, you know, feel all cold as it's a real bad draft, and I got to probably about here where I could just see that the lights are on the electrics distribution box, and at that point I heard a voice that sort of went something like, "Why show here?" Something like that. That's as best as I could make it out and interpret it as "Why show here?" And basically froze for a little while. Wasn't sure what to do, whether to go and turn it off or whether to just bolt out the door and not come back until the next morning and ring someone. But we had a fire in '84, so I decided I was not going to be responsible for that, so I went up. Got all the way up to the distribution board, quickly flicked off the lights, came straight back down the ladder and bolted out the door quite quickly. Not thinking at the time, oh, I've got to turn the alarms back on, so I had to sort of come back in the front and do that, which was scary in itself. Went next door, had given up smoking at the time and had 4 cigarettes pretty much instantly and haven't really smoked since.
Over the years I've been here, many years, I've had quite a few experiences with Ivy. The most memorable one possibly was quite a few years ago when we had a production company here doing a play from Norfolk Island. And halfway through the play, this door here suddenly opened up very slowly, right all the way through. And at the end of the play, I apologised to the man playing the judge, said, "Look, there was no one there to open the door." And he said, "Oh no, it wasn't a person, it was a presence." And I said to him, "Can you explain it?" And he said, "Not really." He said, "But I could tell it was a presence that opened the door." Now, since that time, I have seen this door probably 4 or 5 times, just quietly in the middle of the day. The catch doesn't work that well, but it does have a bit of a catch, but the door will just open right up like that, and yet you don't see anyone. But Ivy, you do smell her perfume, and I've had quite a few occasions where I've walked into a room and suddenly you get this feeling there's someone in here, and you turn around, there's no one there, but there's this quick waft of like a lavender perfume, and that's Ivy, and people experience that all the time.